Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Hillside Power Sport Repair, where today we install the swag sump, or fuel puck as they used to call it. This is kind of a short, compressed video. It's mostly pictures. I went ahead and clamped off my line so I wouldn't have any issue with air bleeding out the whole line. And
so I'm trying to take some pictures here so I can
see me
video
talking there. I decided to voice over it.
Install of this
it's
fuel
just easier
sump.
as I'm currently driving.
I knew I was sucking some air in.
I had some fittings that were a little bit loose.
Here's a good way to tell that you are.
At the
when
actual
the
fast fuel system
and the fitting off of my fuel system.
It really wasn't any fault to anybody's or anything.
Right there.
That
right
red
there.
stuff's supposed to be sort of a thread lock or whatever, but I did have just some pretty consistent aeration issues.
Which means,
and fast is really good about getting rid of those, so that's why we're going with the fuel sump system here. We want to get rid of the quarter-inch fuel supply that's down in the tank,
just a little bit
something a little bigger, because eventually we do want to up power on this, but also we want to have it be a reliable vehicle, and there's some issues with starting below a quarter tank and things of that nature on these trucks.
It's pulled its siphon.
You saw in the very first couple pictures, you may need to go back and look. There was a flat spot on the tank we decided to use. It's just in the best place. There's no real scratches on it or anything like that.
On top of
and if you look here where I'm kind of pointing,
sometimes
I've had fuel all over the top of this tank from that stupid T and the filler line.
It's usually from right up in there.
Neck.
So that's not a great sign.
The biggest aeration issue I have is not from that elbow I've got in my hand there and my paw. What I've actually got is the plastic fittings on top of the tank are about half worn out.
Not building any actual pressure. It's just,
and they just, even with new O-rings, hold it. And you can see there, didn't have a real good way to drain all of the fuel out of the tank.
Into this tote.
Be danged if I'm going to take a good Milwaukee drill and cut a hole in the bottom of the tank.
Batteries do their job.
And just let it go everywhere.
Fuel pump do its job. We'll drain her dry while I'm making the correct markings on the bottom of the tank here.
Or A and hose, shoved it on a barbed fitting. Turn the key on the truck.
Maybe that's
as long as the key's on, I got fuel flow.
Being real close to empty,
fast system.
But still,
the drainer out, a relatively clean piece of Tupperware.
And my truck
there,
said I'd half tank, and that's not half tank out of a 50-some-odd gallon tank.
I was actually able to get the vast majority of the fuel out. There's the connector, if you need to know the connector wire colors. Mind you, there is no power to a factory lift pump that would be in there. And that's kind of an issue. Some of them trucks did have factory lift pumps, but this basket, as you can see, I had to cut down it because after I cut a hole in the tank, there's some wires I had to extend, but I had to cut a hole in the tank, realize I got to flip my fuel sending unit, everything 180 degrees, face the opposite direction, because I put the fuel sump right underneath everything else. You can see kind of how it's turning out. These pictures aren't perfect. They're not necessarily in the right order. I apologize. I'm not editing these on my computer anymore, but you see them wires going back to the back for the sending unit. I had to extend those. I made like a 6 or 8 inch piece come off of it. We did put the AN lines together. I did not film that.
Now I had to end up putting this back on because I don't have a good way to drain this tank. I was going to drill the hole and let it fall into there. But
use oil
it's like half
to lubricate those. Like just so
I just took a barb fitting I had and shoved my actual hose that I'm going to use on there, and we're going to drain it out into this tote.
You can see there's where we were draining it. There's the top of the tank. There's where all the mess was. There is a return line that goes from the injectors. Injectors have and their lines and everything. All that's got that little fuel return line. It goes back into the top of the tank. And if it doesn't go back into the top of the tank, it has to go somewhere, because when I unhooked mine and was messing with the truck and got it to fire up for a minute after all this was done, I had a little bit of a mess on the floor. And I don't know about you, but pumping straight fuel out of the floor is kind of expensive for my blood.
That's the truck starting to suck air.
That's just what we ended up with. Here you can see we're
as the diesel pulls fuel through there.
That's what I was trying to show everybody, that truck is actively sucking air. And
this is why sometimes my truck runs awesome, and sometimes my truck runs like crap.
It's got that whole filter full of fuel right there. And that's something you'll notice. I think you could probably even use it as a test procedure. If you got one that's really consistently sucking air, you could clamp off that line going up front, run another auxiliary line, for lack of a better term, out into a bucket or something and just check for aeration. Because that stuff looked foamy coming out
really
of the,
hard on the
out of the line
pump.
into the tote there. That's not something I'm just real wild about. One, because, you know, hard starts, reduced power. And two, because I have VP44 electronically controlled injection pump. And if it gets too much air in it, well, the air is what lubricates that silly thing.
Not really any pressure on this. It's not sending that air back to the tank.
Have to replace it.
But we can see all of it now. Normally, if it sent it back to the tank, it'd probably pick up pressure a little bit faster.
More aeration
as it was bleeding off pressure. But right now,
again,
it's going to be unhappy.
This video is not a step-by-step. This is just kind of notes from the install. I don't want to get too far into it. I do want to tell you, put the sump assembly
back at the tank,
just about as close center as you can get, and put it in. Mine has that big return piece of pipe sticking out of it. That way any aeration that returns to the tank goes up and above, away from the pickup. But more air right there in that video. But like I said, I had to modify my fuel basket, my old sending unit.
Real quiet as this thing
That's exactly what it is. Just a sending unit, guys. Don't be too afraid to
sometimes you can hear
cut and hack on that thing a little bit. Make it fit right.
The more air it pulls.
I know this is supposed to be a don't drop your tank install. Had I been in a stereotypical situation without the flatbed, with all that extra space, I would have had to drop the tank in order to get that thing right, because the basket would have been a son of a gun to modify through that little hole that I drilled in the bottom of the tank. Railroad tracks. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Just like I said, notes from installation. Everything else went pretty smooth. Thanks for watching, and I hope this is helpful in some way, shape, or form. Have a good one.